And we have one more shout out to two friends of In the Loop, Che Rhymefest-Smith, who's been a panel guest here, and Common, whose charity work we've covered on the show. They, along with John Legend, won an Oscar for Best Original Song Glory in the film Selma. Big congratulations to them, and also to Chicago's Graham Moore, who won an Oscar for Best Screenplay. Now, speaking of some hometown pride, this past week, Chicago's Pullman District earned an historic distinction as a company town that employed the largest number of African-American men during the early 1900s. This neighborhood helped change the face of civil rights.
But what makes Pullman special is the role it's played in our history. This place has been a milestone in our journey toward a more perfect union. That's why today I'm designating Chicago's Pullman District as America's newest national monument.
Last week, President Obama gave this far south side Chicago community the ultimate honor. The story of George Pullman and the Pullman Porters are an important part of America's past, and with the president's designation, now a part of history memorialized forever. In the late 1860s, just after the Civil War, African Americans looking to escape the racially segregated South had a chance to move up north and work for one of the few companies willing to hire them. George Pullman, founder of the Pullman Palace Car Company, manufactured luxury sleeper railroad cars and recruited mostly African American men to work as porters.
George Pullman, right after slavery, went south to recruit the newly freed slaves. He chose them because they were the slaves who worked in the house or ran the businesses. And so they knew how to interact with people because they had been trained to do so.
From the 1870s to the 1960s, more than 20,000 porters had been employed by George Pullman's company. After the recession struck in 1893, wages earned by the Pullman workers were drastically cut, and they were forced to work longer hours.
They recognized that the service that they provided was the incentive for people to ride the train. They became aware that they had value and they wanted to make more money, and they wanted to be treated with respect.
The workers' request for improvements eventually led to a 12-year fight led by civil rights organizer A. Philip Randolph. The goal, to gain equal pay, better wage, and living conditions for all Pullman porters. The outcome, the nation's first black labor union, known as the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters.
The establishing of that union and giving them the platform to grow from was the emergence of the formation of the black middle class.
The remarkable history of the Pullman Porters and the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters are on display here in Chicago at the A. Philip Randolph Pullman Porter Museum. Dr. Lynn Hughes purchased this building and converted it into a museum after realizing there was no place devoted to telling this story.
I knew that it was something missing. I knew that it was a part of the story that needed to be added to make it whole. And that is literally how this museum came to be.
Since museum doors opened 20 years ago, visitors have come from across the country to learn about this piece of American history, including Raymond Williams. His father was a Pullman porter.
My father was a Pullman porter in the St. Louis division for 47 years, from 1920 until 1967. The Pullman porters, I think, was a great part of the black community. They were churchmen, they were family men. Overall, they were just great people to be admired in the black community.
Passing this history on to the next generation will help keep the legacy of the porters and the Pullman community alive.
In my position as a new president, it's imperative that I make sure that it's clear and appealing to the next generation so that they can understand the struggles that went into, the privileges that they have today.
David Peterson Jr. has enlisted some of Chicago's modern talent to help keep the importance of the museum front and center.
Due to the fact that this place is like a shrine of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, it's my duty to translate that to the youth and let them know that, hey man, it's okay to learn something. That's cool. People have to know that this museum exists because this is a marvel in the community.
The museum is hosting an awards gala this Saturday in celebration of its 20th anniversary. For more information about the event and the museum, Go to our website, wycc.org, and look for In the Loop.
That wraps up another episode of In the Loop. Join us next week when we take an in-depth look at Governor Rauner's fight with organized labor.
Until next week, I'm Barbara Pinto.
And I'm Chris Bury. Good night.
Good night.